There's a strange power our mind has. It can take silence and turn it into a full-blown love story. When someone doesn't text us back or disappears from our life, instead of letting them go, our brain often clings harder. It starts replaying old moments, looking for signs that maybe they cared more than they showed. We imagine their excuses, justify their absence, and create emotional meaning from scraps. That's not connection, that's projection. And the danger here is that it feels real. The mind convinces you there's something still alive, when in truth, the relationship has flatlined. You end up feeding the ghost of someone instead of facing the truth of their absence. That's not love, that's a fantasy. Love is built in the present. It exists in the way someone shows up consistently, in their actions, in their communication. But when someone goes silent, and you still feel emotionally hooked, that's not because of what they're doing now, it's because of what you're holding onto inside your mind. You remember how they made you feel that one night, or how they looked at you that one time. And instead of realizing that the connection needs to be nourished by effort, you keep it alive with memory and imagination. That's what we do when we romanticize someone. We hold on to the idea of them, not the reality. And the more we do that, the more we lose touch with our own needs. Our longing turns into a loop, and that loop steals our clarity. This is where the danger lies. The emotional intimacy you feel is no longer being created by both of you. It's being created by you alone. You're the one scripting conversations in your head. You're the one building emotional moments out of thin air. And you don't even realize you're doing it because the feelings are so strong. But strength of feeling isn't proof of love. It's often just proof of how deeply your imagination has taken over. And when you're stuck in this emotional loop, you're not just thinking about him, you're protecting an illusion. You defend the version of him you've created, not the one who's actively choosing to stay out of your life. That's not emotional connection. That's emotional self-abandonment. Let's be clear, if someone isn't reaching out, they're saying something. Even if it's not with words, silence is communication. Silence says, I'm not invested enough to try. Or, I'm not ready. I'm not thinking about you the way you're thinking about me. And that stings, I know. But pain is better than delusion, because pain can lead you to healing. Delusion keeps you stuck. The longer you keep spinning stories in your head, the more you delay your own peace. You begin to wonder if you did something wrong, if you should have said something differently. But in truth, his silence is his choice, and it tells you more than sweet words ever could. The real work begins when you start noticing the difference between connection and craving. Connection is mutual. It's when both people are feeding the bond. Craving, on the other hand, is fueled by lack. When you crave someone, you don't crave their presence. You crave the idea of what it would feel like if they were here. And that craving keeps your brain busy. It's intoxicating. It fills the gaps with hope. But here's the truth. If you're always the one filling the space between you, then there is no space being shared. It's one-sided. And no matter how romantic it feels in your mind, it's lonely in reality. Think about how many hours you've spent analyzing messages that never came. How many times you've rewritten that last conversation in your head. How many maybe he's busy excuses you've made. That time, that energy, it could have been spent on you, on your joy, on your growth, on the people who are actually showing up in your life. But you handed it over to someone who hasn't even asked for it. That's the trick your mind plays. It tells you that your thoughts are productive, that they mean something, that they'll lead to closure or resolution. But most of the time, they lead nowhere, because the other person isn't even in the room. Here's a hard truth. Someone who wants to speak to you will find a way. We live in a world where people text from airplanes, send voice notes in traffic, and check their phones 100 times a day. So if he's not reaching out, it's not because he can't. It's because he's choosing not to. And I don't say that to make you feel small. I say it so you can stop making excuses for someone who's not investing in you. Because the longer you hold on to this silent maybe, the longer you delay the definitely that's waiting for you. You deserve presence. You deserve someone who makes you feel seen, not someone you have to guess about. You know what's real? Communication. You know what builds trust? Consistency. And you know what keeps relationships alive? Mutual effort. Anything outside of that is just noise. So if he's only alive in your mind and not in your life, If the only place you're hearing from him is in your own imagination, then it's time to be honest about what this really is. It's not connection, it's emotional habit, it's mental muscle memory. And it's time to break it. Because the more you entertain this illusion, the more unavailable you become for real love. Letting go of a mental attachment is hard, especially when it's built on chemistry, dreams, or emotional highs. But you can't keep confusing mental obsession with emotional value. Just because someone has occupied space in your thoughts doesn't mean they've earned a space in your life. And you get to reclaim that, thought by thought, day by day. You get to say, just because I feel something doesn't mean I have to act on it. You get to set your standard, not based on your feelings, but based on the actions of the person on the other side. That's not cold, that's not guarded, that's empowered. We all do it. We see a glimpse of who someone could be, their charm, their warmth, the way they lit up that one conversation, and suddenly we build a future around it. We hold on to that highlight reel like it's a promise. But potential isn't a guarantee, it's a possibility. And unless it's backed by action, it means nothing. The real person is the one they show you consistently, not the one you imagine in your head. We confuse occasional kindness for permanent character. We ignore the gaps, the inconsistencies, the times they vanish without reason, and focus on that one magical evening. But relationships don't survive on memories. They grow on effort. When you're focused on someone's potential, you're not in a relationship with them. You're in a relationship with a version of them that doesn't exist yet. And often, that version was never promised. You saw a spark and turned it into a flame all by yourself. You took the way he could love you and treated it like the way he is loving you. And that's where we get stuck. Because we don't want to walk away from what's happening. We're afraid to walk away from what could happen. Hope becomes a trap. You're not holding on to him. You're holding on to who you wish he was. This is where so many strong women get caught. You're not naive. You see the flaws. You notice the distance. But your heart keeps whispering, maybe he just needs more time, or he's been hurt before, or if I show him I care, maybe he'll become the man I see in him. But here's the truth. Growth has to be a choice he makes, not a project you manage. You can't coach someone into being ready. You can't love someone into showing up. That's not romantic. It's exhausting. And when you ignore who someone is because you're obsessed with who they could be, you betray yourself. Potential is dangerous because it keeps you stuck in waiting mode. It gives you just enough emotional fuel to justify staying. And because he's not awful, because he's not treating you horribly, you keep second-guessing your standards. You tell yourself that he's not that bad, as if your job is to tolerate, not thrive. But you didn't sign up to be someone's transition phase. You're not a bridge. You're not a stepping stone to their growth. You are the destination. And if he can't see that, then he's not walking the same road as you, no matter how much you wish he was. So what happens? You start shrinking your needs. You downplay what you want because it feels too much for someone who's almost there. You adjust your expectations to fit his limitations. And little by little, you disconnect from your own clarity. You talk yourself out of your instincts. You teach yourself to settle and call it patience. But love isn't supposed to feel like constant convincing. If you're always explaining why you deserve more, you're not in a partnership, you're in a negotiation. And the person you're trying to convince is not confused. He's just not choosing you the way you're choosing him. The most painful part of focusing on potential is that you start losing sight of what's actually happening. You ignore the red flags, you explain away the distance, you accept breadcrumbs and call it a meal, and you do it all in the name of love. But real love doesn't leave you guessing. Real love doesn't require you to shrink or to beg. And the worst part is, you know this. Deep down, you know that if someone truly wanted to grow with you, they wouldn't leave you alone in the process. They would meet you there. But when they don't, you have to be honest about what that means. Your mind will argue with you. It will remind you of the good parts. It will bring up the what-ifs and the maybe-laters. It will tell you stories about how people can change. And people can change, but only if they want to. Not if you want them to. Not because you stayed long enough. Not because you proved your worth. You don't earn someone's growth by suffering for it. You don't unlock their potential by sacrificing your peace. You want to believe he'll become that person one day, but love isn't a game of someday. It's about how someone shows up today. You are not hard to love. You are not asking for too much. You are simply asking the wrong person. The one who keeps you in limbo. The one who shows you just enough to stay hopeful but not enough to feel secure. And that's not love, that's emotional ambiguity. That's what keeps you checking your phone at midnight, rereading old messages, and wondering if something is wrong with you. But nothing is wrong with you. You've just been building a future with someone who isn't building it with you. And the sooner you stop romanticizing their potential, the sooner you'll reconnect with your own. Ask yourself this: if you stripped away the potential, if you looked only at what's actually happening, would you still want this? Would you still feel fulfilled, seen, supported? Or are you constantly holding out for a version of him that only exists in your head? That's the test. That's the clarity. Because love isn't about what's promised. It's about what's practiced. If he's not showing up with actions, effort, and consistency, then what you're holding on to isn't love. It's a dream. And you weren't put on this earth to chase someone else's unrealized potential. You were meant to stand in your truth and be met fully. When you let go of potential, you make space for reality. You start living in the now, not in the future. And that's where your power comes back. You stop tolerating maybes and start demanding yeses. You stop hoping they'll see your value and start choosing people who already do. And that's not cold, it's courageous. It's not giving up, it's leveling up. Because real love, healthy, grounded, mutual love, doesn't keep you waiting on who someone might be one day. It meets you as you are, here and now. And that's what you truly deserve. There's something beautiful about the way you care, the way your heart holds on, even in silence, the way you're willing to see the good in someone, to believe in what you felt. That's not weakness, that's strength. It means your love runs deep. But what happens when you give that depth to someone who doesn't hold space for it? What happens when you pour your heart into a void? That love has nowhere to land. And when love has nowhere to go, it starts turning inward. And not in a healing way. It becomes doubt. It becomes confusion. When you keep thinking about someone who isn't communicating, it says less about them and more about how much love you still have inside you. That emotional focus has to land somewhere. And right now, it's stuck on someone who isn't showing up. That doesn't mean you're broken. It means you care deeply. But the challenge is this. Are you going to let that love keep circling around someone who can't receive it? Or are you going to start redirecting it inward, to the one person who's been there all along, you? You've made him the center of your thoughts, but what would your life look like if you were the center? So many people mistake heartbreak for failure. They think, why did I give so much? Or teen, how could I have been so open? Being open is not the mistake. The mistake is continuing to give your love away to someone who doesn't value it. It's not that you loved, it's that you didn't recognize when that love needed to come home. You didn't fail by feeling something real. But if you keep abandoning yourself in the name of hope, that's when love becomes pain. Because love isn't meant to empty you. It's meant to flow in both directions. And if it's not flowing back, that's your signal. The truth is, you've been loyal to someone in your heart who hasn't been loyal in return. Maybe not out of cruelty, but through absence, through avoidance, through silence. And that silence is loud. It echoes in your thoughts. It makes you question your worth. But their distance is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of where they are emotionally. And if they're not ready or willing to engage, you continuing to wait for that validation is like standing at a locked door hoping it will open because your heart is pure. Sometimes the door is closed because it's not your door. When you start giving that same care, that same love, that same thoughtfulness to yourself, something begins to shift. You stop chasing answers from people who don't have the courage to give them. You stop hoping someone else will reflect back your worth. And instead, you start becoming that mirror for yourself. You build routines that nourish you. You set boundaries that protect you. You choose to no longer abandon yourself just because someone else has. That's the power of self-love. It's not about bubble baths and affirmations. It's about choosing yourself when someone else chooses silence. Sometimes we stay emotionally attached because we're afraid of what letting go will say about us. We think letting go means it didn't matter, that it wasn't real. But letting go doesn't erase what was true, it just honors what is. And what is true now is that he's not here. He's not reaching out, he's not reciprocating. So why are you still giving him space in your mind that he won't even claim in your life? That's the moment when you realize this isn't about him anymore. This is about you reclaiming your emotional energy and deciding where it truly belongs. Love is an energy, and like any energy, it has to be managed wisely. If you keep giving it to someone who isn't showing up, you're operating at an emotional loss. You wake up drained. You start feeling anxious, unsure, on edge. You question yourself more than you trust yourself. That's what happens when your love is poured into a black hole. But imagine if that energy went back into your creativity, your friendships, your purpose, your healing. Suddenly, the love you thought you needed from him becomes the fuel for becoming the version of yourself you almost forgot existed. You are not waiting for him. You are waiting for you. The part of you that got lost while you were focused on his potential. The part of you that forgot how powerful she is when she stops begging for breadcrumbs and starts baking her own damn bread. You've always had the capacity to love deeply, but now it's time to direct that love intentionally. To stop viewing your feelings as something someone else needs to complete, and start viewing them as something you get to harness, because no one else is coming to save you. And that's actually the best news. Healing begins when you stop looking for someone to return your love and start asking why you keep giving it away for free. Not because love should come with conditions, but because your energy is sacred, your thoughts are sacred, your time is sacred. And if someone isn't honoring that, they're not just ignoring you, they're wasting the most valuable part of your life, your presence. The longer you stay mentally attached to someone who isn't engaging, the more you starve yourself of joy that's already available. Love doesn't ask you to disappear. Real love expands you, not erases you. You can still wish him well. You can still appreciate what you shared. But you don't have to keep him alive in your mind if he's gone in reality. You can close the chapter without bitterness. You can move forward with grace. But make no mistake, moving forward is not about waiting. It's about choosing. It's about saying, this heart still beats, and it's going to beat for me now. You've waited long enough for someone to show up. Maybe this whole time, the person you were really waiting for was you. There comes a point when holding on starts to feel heavier than letting go. Not because the person changed, but because you did. You start to feel the weight of all the overthinking, all the hoping, all the waiting. And in that quiet frustration, there's a message. This is not where your power lives. Your power doesn't live in wondering why he's silent. It doesn't live in scrolling through old texts trying to find clues. It doesn't live in checking his stories to see if he still cares. Your power lives in the moment you stop making someone else the main character in your story. That moment when you say, I've given enough. Now I choose me. When you think about him constantly without communication, what you're really doing is investing your emotional energy into someone who isn't investing back. And energy is currency. Every thought you spend on him is a thought you're not spending on yourself, your growth, or your peace. You may think you're just reminiscing or processing, but if it's looping over and over, it's not healing, it's draining. The reason you feel tired isn't because of your job or your schedule. It's because mentally, you're carrying the emotional labor of two people, and he's not even aware of it. That's not power. That's self-depletion. The most dangerous thing about obsession is that it disguises itself as love. You think, I can't stop thinking about him. This must mean something deep. But the truth is, rumination often means your boundaries have been breached. It means you've made someone else's presence, or absence, responsible for your emotional stability. And that's not love, that's dependency. Real power is reclaiming your right to peace regardless of what someone else is doing or not doing. It's saying, you can go quiet, but I won't go crazy. You're not here to babysit someone's emotional availability. You're here to build a life that reflects your worth. You don't need closure from someone who left you in confusion. Silence is closure. Lack of effort is closure. Someone not choosing you is closure. But we resist that because it feels incomplete. We want it to end with a speech, a goodbye, a resolution. But life rarely offers such neat conclusions. Sometimes your closure has to be, this is hurting me, and I deserve more. That's when your energy begins to return. You stop waiting for someone to validate your experience. You stop needing someone to confirm your worth. You take your power back by saying, I decide when this ends. Redirecting your energy doesn't mean you stop caring overnight. It means you choose where your attention goes next. It means you catch yourself when you start spiraling into another mental conversation with him and say, not today. You learn to interrupt the pattern. That's power, recognizing the moment your thoughts drift toward pain and gently guiding them home. That's not cold or heartless. That's healing in action. It's self-respect in motion. And every time you do it, you're teaching your brain that you are in charge now. Not the longing, not the fantasy. You. When your mind wants to obsess, get physical, move your body, take a walk, shake out the emotion. When your thoughts spiral, write them down and close the journal. Do not give this person unlimited access to your mental space. You are not a waiting room, you are a whole world. You are art and ambition and laughter and resilience. And the more you feed those parts of yourself, the less appealing it becomes to obsess over someone who couldn't even make time to respond. Redirecting energy is a habit, and habits build identity. Start building the identity of someone who knows her worth. Ask yourself, what if I redirected all this mental energy into building something incredible for myself? What if the time I spent wondering what he's thinking became the time I spent creating a life so fulfilling, I stopped wondering altogether? Because obsession fades when purpose rises. When your days are filled with meaning, there's less room for mental ghosts. You can't heal in the same environment that broke you. So change the environment, change what you consume, who you talk to, what you say to yourself. Your power returns every time you choose yourself over a fantasy. There's a version of you on the other side of this attachment who is calm, focused, lit up from the inside. She doesn't chase, she attracts. She doesn't beg for clarity, she becomes clarity. But to become her, you have to stop romanticizing inconsistency. You have to stop making excuses for someone who doesn't show up. And most importantly, you have to stop giving them access to your nervous system. That peace you're looking for isn't found in them. It's found in your decision to stop handing away your control. You don't need their permission to move forward, just your own. It might feel hard at first. The silence feels empty. But in that silence, you'll start to hear you again. You'll remember the parts of yourself that went quiet while you were busy tuning into someone else's signal. That's the gift of redirection. It's not about revenge, it's about return. Return to yourself, to your joy, to your standards. Every time you choose peace over obsession, you're laying the bricks of a new foundation, a stronger one, a truer one where your energy doesn't depend on anyone else's attention. That is the ultimate form of power. And if that voice inside still whispers, but what if he comes back? You'll know exactly what to do. You won't panic, you won't lose yourself again. Because you've spent this time building emotional strength, not waiting in emotional debt. You've redirected, you've reclaimed, and you've remembered that you were always whole, even when he was gone. That's the kind of power no one can take from you. So if he's always on your mind, and there's no communication, you're not crazy. You're not weak. You're human. You've got a heart that feels deeply, and a mind that wants resolution. That means you care. But what you do next is everything. Because it's not enough to just feel. We have to respond to our feelings in ways that honor us, not hurt us. You don't owe your life to someone just because you saw potential in them. You don't have to stay stuck in a story that only you are still writing. You have the right and the responsibility to turn the page. Your thoughts have power. Every time you think of him, every time you wonder what he's doing or why he isn't calling, that's energy leaving you and going to him. Imagine what would happen if even half of that energy came back home to you. Imagine the version of yourself that could emerge if you chose you the way you keep choosing him in your head. This is not about bitterness. It's not about pretending you never cared. It's about acknowledging that you deserve to be met with presence, with consistency, with real effort, not just a place in someone's imagination. You were never meant to wait around hoping someone will realize what they had in you. You were meant to realize it yourself. Because the moment you do, you stop chasing people who don't see it. You stop needing closure, explanations, or apologies. You don't need someone else to finish your story for you. You are the author. And you get to write a new chapter, one where you are centered, not sidelined. One where you give your time, your love, your energy only to those who return it fully and freely. So yes, if he's always in your mind and never in your life, it means something. But it doesn't mean he's your person. It doesn't mean he's the one that got away. It means your soul is sending you a message. It's time to come back to you, to remember what you bring to the table, to remember that love isn't proven through waiting, it's proven through mutual effort. It's not in the fantasy, it's in the follow-through. And if someone can't show up for you in real time, let that be the clarity you need. Because you're not just worthy of love, you're worthy of peace. You're worthy of someone who makes you feel safe, seen, and celebrated. And most of all, you're worthy of saving all that beautiful energy for a life that feeds you, grows you, and reflects who you truly are. This isn't the end of something. It's the beginning of everything.